Hey everyone, welcome back. Johnny B here with Devslopes.com, and we are continuing our awesome Legend of Devslopes game. And in this video, we are going to add a few little features that will really spice up our game. Okay, so right now when we play it, we have a couple of enemies, and we are able to attack them. We have sound effects for when we hit them, as well as sound effects for when they hit us. But otherwise, it seems, a little bit quiet. I think what we need in here is some theme music. So I'm going to press play to exit. And with theme music, you want to have it on a game object that is always in the scene. And so we're going to attach it to our main camera, which incidentally is also where the audio listener is, if you were wondering about that. So I'm going to add a component, and I'm going to say audio source. And I'm going to open up the audio source here, and I'm going to put the volume to about 0.8, and we'll see how that sounds. I know that it's a little bit loud, so I'm going to then click on the audio clip right next to it on the circle select button to choose the theme music, and then double click. And we're going to play on awake, and we do want it to loop. And I think that will do nicely. So I'm going to save it and press play. All right, now we got some nice theme music to really give our game some character. And it's pretty loud though, so I'm going to come back to the audio source. I'm going to drop that down to maybe 0.5 and see how that sounds. So let's see how that does. That's better. So now let's attack. All right, looks good. Let's say goodbye to the tanker, and then there goes the soldier. All right, so that looks good. But now the only indication that we have been struck or that they have been struck is our hit back animation and our hurt noise. But I think we can do a little bit better than that. Let's go ahead and let's make some blood for our orcs as well as for our human. And to do that, we are going to use the particle system built in with Unity. All right, and it's not too difficult actually. They make it pretty easy to use. So in the hierarchy, I'm going to right click and select particle system. All right, awesome. So that got stuck into the event system for some reason. I'm going to drag it out just so it's by itself. Okay, so it automatically set itself over here at 0, 0, 0. You can see it. I'm going to drag it over here into our camera view. So the particle system, it is built in with the physics engine, and we are able to really do some really cool stuff. So we're going to walk through and go through the basics and make some adjustments to this default particle system that will make for a nice little blood splash effect. Okay, so first thing off, we don't need it to run for 5 seconds. This is duration right here. This is the length of the time the particle system is emitting particles. So not the entire length of the particle effect, just how long it's actually spewing forth particles. Okay, and let's make that 0.5 seconds. And we don't want it to loop, just want it to be a one-time blood spray. And start lifetime. This is the amount of time that the particle will die when its lifetime reaches 0. So we'll make it about 2 seconds. And our start speed, we want it to kind of burst out pretty quick, so let's put that at about 15. And our start size, well, I'll let you see what it looks like here. So there's some of them shooting out, and they're pretty good size, but we're actually want it to be a little bit bigger. But we're actually going to scale this entire particle effect down here in a bit. Actually, let's do that right now. We're going to make this 0.1 in the X scale, 0.1 in the Y scale, and 0.1 in the Z scale. Okay. And now let's change the color. This one's going to be for the human, so We're going to make it a nice dark red. That looks good. And as you can tell right now, the particles just kind of, let's get up in here close. Particles just kind of float. They just kind of float up, right? That's not going to do. We need them to we need them to react to gravity. So we're going to say 0.5 for the gravity modifier. And then here's where so then we're going to be spewing out 1,000 max particles. And we don't want it to play on awake. And let's check out our emission. So here's where we're going to be able to make it look a lot better. So rate, let's say 1,000. So the rate is how many particles per second that is going to be emitted from our particle. So now when we, I'm going to move this up a little bit. Now when we simulate it, yeah, there's a whole bunch of red particles that are going to be spewing out. All right, and so just to kind of show you this particle effect window, here in the hierarchy we have our particle system selected. You can simulate it by pressing there. You can stop it. You can simulate and pause. You can change the playback speed, set time, and it shows how many particles we're working with. Okay, so that looks good. It's starting to come together already, and we haven't done too much. We want to change the shape. Let's let's play with a few of these just to kind of show what we have. We have a sphere, and that actually looks pretty good. We have a hemisphere, so let's see what that looks like. So instead of making a complete sphere, it kind of just spews out from the bottom in a hemispherical shape. We have a cone. Interesting. We have a box. Interesting. And but I think what we want, we're gonna go with circle. Okay, and simulate that, and there we go. That looks good. Alrighty. And we want the radius to be actually pretty small, though. We're going to go with 0.05 and see how that looks. Very good. All right. And next thing we want to do is check out our size over lifetime. So we go ahead and check that and open it up. And we are going to select random between two curves. And this just controls the size of each particle over its life cycle, okay? Then we're going to check out our renderer section. We're going to change the max particle size to about 10 and see how that looks. Nice, nice. So that's coming together quite nicely. And that's really all we need for this particle system. And let's go ahead and rename it human blood. Very cool. And then let's see if we can copy and paste. And let's name this one orc blood. And for the orc blood, let's change the color. Orcs bleed a dark green color, of course. So let's change that color. So now we have our two particle systems. We have human blood and our orc blood. Whoops. And I think that is looking and I'm just realizing that the circle is actually making it two-dimensional, it looks like. So let's go ahead and come back into the human blood. And let's go back to our shape, and let's make that a sphere. All right, so simulate that now. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Then go back to the orc blood and change its shape to a sphere as well. All right, and then we simulate it. There we go. That looks better. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to add these to our hero and our enemy. But first we want to make these prefabs. And we haven't actually worked with prefabs yet. So I'm going to click on Assets, and I right-clicked and created a new folder, and I'm going to call it Prefabs. Oh, we already had a folder for prefabs, so I'm going to delete that one I just created. And so prefabs are objects that we are able to make multiple instances of, and it's just pretty much a factory that pushes out a whole bunch of clones, okay? So we're going to drag in, and the way you can make a prefab is simply by dragging in an object from the hierarchy and drag it into the folder prefabs. And then you'll see that the title human blood has just turned blue. Okay, and what else do we have in prefabs? We have the sample scene, and we're going to want our tanker and all of our enemies to be prefabs as well. So I'm going to drag those also into the prefabs folder, along with the soldier and the ranger and the hero as well. Why not? All right, so now we have our prefabs. We still need the orc blood in there as well. Okay, great. And we need these to be prefabs because we're going to attach them to our enemies, and pretty quick here we're actually going to start writing the code to randomly spawn our enemies in different locations, and so we'll be instantiating those game objects from these prefabs. Okay, so for the orc blood, so the ones that we have here in the scene, I'm going to actually delete them. So delete the orc blood, delete the human blood, and then I'm going to select the tanker, and from the prefabs I'm going to grab an orc blood, and I'm just going to drag it onto the tanker. So now that is attached to it, and let's check out our scene and see where it's located position. Let's go 0 in the X, 1 in the Y, and 0 in the Z, and simulate it and see how that looks. Maybe a little bit higher, so simulate. Hey, there we go. So now we got some blood spurting out from our tanker. Let's do the same for our ranger and our soldier. So tanker, ranger, gonna grab the orc blood from the prefabs and just drag it onto the soldier, and do the same. We're gonna make it 0, 1, 0, and simulate, and there's some blood coming out from our soldier as well. And then for our ranger, we need to enable you here and then press apply. So when you have when you've made changes to, if you have an object in the scene and you've made changes to it that you want applied to the prefab as well, you press apply. So I just applied the change that I made, which was to enable the ranger. Okay. Then in the prefabs, I'm going to add the orc blood to the ranger, just dragged it right on top, and I'm going to change the position to 0, 1, 0. And that's 0 in the X, 1 in the Y, and 0 in the Z. And I'm going to press simulate, and there's some blood coming out of our ranger as well. I think that's looking pretty cool. I think I'm going to raise up the blood a little bit on each of them. So I'm just grabbing the soldier and grabbing the particle and just grabbing the Y axis and raising it up and checking to see how that looks. And I think that looks good. And I think we'll raise it up on the tanker as well, selecting the orc, selecting the tanker, and selecting his orc blood and raising that up and simulating. All right, so that looks cool. All right, so now the hero needs her blood, and that is going to be an instance of the human blood. So I'm dragging the prefab of the human blood onto our hero, closing up the bone structure, and setting the human blood position to 0, 1, and 0. That didn't get to 0, so 0, 1, and 0, and simulate See how that looks, and I'm gonna raise that up just a little bit. Cool. All right, so now we need a way to play that blood animation, play the blood particle effect when we are struck. Okay, so we're gonna jump back into our code, and I'm just gonna grab that here. All right, so we are going to need a reference to our particle system. So we are going to say private, and we're here in the player health script. We're going to say private particle system. We're going to call it blood. And then on start, we are going to get a reference to it. We're going to say blood is equal to get component. And this is going to be, hold on, I'm going to need to restart, get component in children. And the thing that we are looking for is a particle system. Nice. Okay, so then when we are hit, all we need to do is say blood dot play. As well as in kill player, we're just going to say blood dot play. And that should take care of that. Now let's do the same thing in enemy health. We are going to need a reference to the blood. So we're going to say private particle system. And we're going to name it blood. And then in on start, we're going to grab that component. So we're going to say blood is equal to get component in children, because it's a child component. And the type that we want is particle system. Okay, very good. And then whenever we get hit, we are going to say blood dot play. And even when we die, we're going to say blood dot play. Okay. Actually, you know what? We don't need to repeat the blood dot play twice. We can just put it right here. All right, awesome. So let's give that a go and see how it looks. All right, so I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna, all right. And let's see how our blood looks. Nice. Nice. Very cool. All right, you guys, so we got some music playing. We got our blood spurting in every direction for our orcs and our human, and that makes it just that takes it to a whole new level of coolness with these particle effects and with the music. And so our game is really shaping up. And in the next videos, we're going to start implementing the game manager logic so that we actually have some goals. You know, we're going to implement the logic so that we are going and playing in levels, and so it's going to be really cool. Hope you stick around, and we will see you in the next one. Johnny B with Devslopes.com.